welcome back to my channel. This is your girl, Make Your Marmalade. Today is going to be a voiceover. This is what I'm currently working on, and I will be kind of going over some how-to processes, but really and truly, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about selling on Etsy versus selling on your own platform, or both, depending on how you want to look through it. So I was browsing through the Etsy subreddits, and someone had made a post titled, basically go along the lines of, instead of buying from my Etsy shop, buy from my website instead, because the fees on Etsy, if you do or may not know, is slowly rising over the years. The cost, all of that is going up. So I see a lot of people kind of chimed in on it and whatnot, and there's two sides to that coin. Like me, I have mixed feelings. On one end, as someone who's not really selling a whole lot of stuff on Etsy, I'm not like a power seller. I don't get too many sales too often because I'm still considerably new, or I would say I've been new as far as being consistent. Like I've had my shop up, open, and filled with at least 10 products. It's grown to almost 50 now, but at least since May of 2019, and it's currently June of 2020. So that's a little bit of where I stand. But here's my thing about, as a buyer, or if you're looking at buyers, why referring them to offsite websites such as Shopify or Woocommerce, the pros and the cons. So there's a flip side to both. Now, in a perfect world, I agree. I think that Etsy is kind of a little shady towards their sellers sometimes. Sometimes they can be really high with the fees. Other times they can side a little bit too often with customers. Now, this is just from stuff that I've read. I've not experienced any of this because, again, I don't have a lot of sale volume. But I will say that the fees are a little bit out there versus if you're selling on your own platform. Like for me, for example, I have a Woocommerce site with WordPress.org. The only fee associated with selling on my website would be the card processing fee, like PayPal or Stripe. Etsy, you would have the 20 cents, and that's if you sell it successfully within the first time of listing it. This is not if you have to relist it. You've got the 5% transaction fee, and then they rolled out with this free shipping program. So there's a lot of costs and whatnot. So I see why people are really urging people to, buy from my website directly instead of Etsy. Or here's a discount for if you buy from me again, but it's only valid on my website and not my Etsy shop. Now, I have seen people in the comment section as a buyer kind of state okay, I shop on Etsy because I trust Etsy as a platform. I've actually had a customer state the same thing. I had sold a sticker, and I gave her a link to my website directly, and I gave her the Etsy shop link, and she chose to buy it from Etsy. And after the sale was through, I just asked genuinely, what prompted you to buy it from Etsy versus my website? And she said, hey, it's just easier to buy it on Etsy. My card information is stored there. So there's definitely a lot of pros of buying on Etsy versus an artist website. I think another highly overlooked factor is the convenience of Etsy. Now, this is definitely not a pro for a seller or an artist, but it is a pro for and I would say it's a pro for a buyer a little bit more than a pro for a seller. Not to say it's not a pro at all for a seller. So one of the biggest pros of buying from Etsy versus a seller's individual website is the buyer protection program. Now, one could argue and say, you have that same protection buying from my website if you use PayPal, if you use a credit card. But here's the thing, as a buyer, and I say this because I am myself a buyer, and it goes into customer effort, which, as somebody who has worked in customer service and has basically been drilled into your head from every client I've worked with, companies and whatnot, you want to make the effort on the customer's end the least amount as possible. Filing a claim with PayPal, filing a claim with your credit card is a headache. Filing a case on Etsy is not as much as a nuisance to do. It's a lot easier to kind of go through the process so that definitely that's a very strong point for a buyer to buy from an Etsy shop. Now, you could try, I think it's still good to do both. even in 2020, I think it's good to have an Etsy shop and have your own website. Now, I think this is a little bit controversial. Maybe, I don't know. It's kind of like something that I'm just trying. I don't know if anyone else has thought about this. So, as I think that, you know, if you feel like, okay, Etsy's fees are higher, or Etsy's, as a seller, if you feel like Etsy's fees are unfair and you have your own website, then list your stuff cheaper on your website. Because honestly, you should be charging fairly for what Etsy as a platform is offering. When somebody's buying from your Etsy shop, they're paying for Etsy's ease of customer service. They're paying for Etsy's search engine. They're paying for Etsy's buyer protection program. I'm not saying that you should have a huge spike, or, you know, your difference should be as dark as mine. It could be why my stuff isn't selling. Honestly, I'm not too concerned about the crochet dolls. And I'm not doing this full time, so that's a huge consideration too. I would definitely reconsider that strategy if you were trying to sell your art full time. This is not advice I would say to do if you're doing it full time. But I think it is to say you should definitely think of the value that comes from that perception as a buyer. Now, I've read a lot of people who have an Etsy shop, and a lot of people who have their own website like to charge the same exact amount. Now, me personally, even all things considered, I would never do that, because I think that there's something to say, like, if you have your own website, you're paying for the web server, if you're paying for Shopify, you're paying for the monthly fees and whatnot, but you're not paying to list every single product. You're not paying for a transaction fee to Shopify or for Woocommerce or whatnot. I don't think they should be the same price. Now, I don't think you should have a huge spike like that. Perhaps that's your own choice, though. I think that, you know, you should play around the prices and consider that. Now, this video has gone for a little bit over 10 minutes, so I'm not going to hold people here. But thank you for listening. If you are an Etsy seller or Etsy shop owner, definitely tell me what you think, because I think that, you know, it's a pretty hot topic on that Etsy subreddit, which, you know, the topic of, oh, should I switch from Etsy to my own website? What Etsy versus your own website. Another misconception is they are not the same thing. Etsy is a marketplace. A handmade marketplace with a lot of problems, I will admit, and I have a strong love-hate relationship with it. I think a lot of people do. But having your own website is like being in your own little island. I heard someone say this analogy, having an Etsy store is like renting a kiosk in the mall, or renting a store in the mall, versus having your own website. It's like having a brick and mortar store in just not the middle of nowhere, but like nothing surrounding it. They both have their pros and cons, but they're not one and the same. So to kind of summarize this, I think you really should, if you do want to do this, I think you should just have both. I think you should give customers options, because and I think it's really easy to fall into, oh, I'm trying to make this as cheap as possible. But are you trying to be the Walmart of crafters? Are you trying to be the cheapest? Are you trying to be quality? Are you trying to build something like, you know, build quality? So don't cheapen yourself out too much too. Well, that is it. So long. Goodbye. Thanks for coming to my channel. I will show off what I'm doing next Wednesday. I'm trying to keep a schedule of uploading on Wednesdays. Today came out a little bit later, but I do work a full-time job, so a girl be tired sometimes. But if you like this video, if you like what you see, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe, I would appreciate it. But, you know, share this video if you think it's interesting, or don't engage with it at all. Honestly, my dolls will be sad, but, you know, if you don't like this video, that doll will go hungry, and, you know, you don't want the dolls to go hungry. No one wants to have hungry stuffed animals. It's not cool. It's not cool. Toodles!